really visible for the people in Antikong that supports things like mass migration to Malaysia because welfare facilities, things like education and healthcare are probably much more available in the other country compared to in Indonesia. In other border areas, for example, in North Sulawesi and Philippines, those are not really visible given the fact that they are geographically, separated by the existence of of a sea, or that's why like the social tension is probably not that high given the lack of visual aspect in those areas, and therefore there is a clear urgency that we ought to look after the sub-district of Antikong first, given the clear difference with Malaysia in that regard. Regarding comparison with other areas, we like previously we noted about the idea of potential that Tafita has previously noted that they have a lot of natural resources, but the problem is that they have not been able to commercialize on those natural resources. The reason why me in this presentation did not come up with a specific solution is either because of one or two things. First, I think specific solution would only cater to a specific demography of individual, just like what Tafita did previously. And if we still want to maximize on that bamboo crafting training, for instance, then it probably will be substantially less effective, given the fact that it has already been conducted before, and given the realistic expectation that those people who join in the earlier training will already would have already been able to pass those knowledge to people on their particular family, to people on their particular community. So the effectivity substantially decreases. And as I noted previously, the only way we can realistically measure that a problem is more urgent than the other is if we actually go to there in person and evaluate based on our observation that these are the actual problems that might be more urgent compared to the other. And therefore, given that this idea might sound general at first, we would think that the next iterations of this idea probably will be much more specific when we have already will be more specifically tailored to a specific problem that we will have already found by the end of this service to begin with. So probably not. Apologies. Probably not the next guy after me, but the next iteration of this service. Because as I mentioned, this is not gonna be a one-time thing. Hopefully, this is gonna be a sustainable solution in which we probably go there once in a year or once in 2 years. And by identifying the problem at our first iteration, we can specifically tailor the next iterations to be more specific. If that probably helps the answer. Great. Thank you.
Okay, Mbak Heni, you may ask.
Well, in that case, I have nothing to ask then. Because you didn't come up with a specific program that you are, yeah, yeah. So you should put that in your conclusion. I need to do a site visit to come up with this brand new idea for the solution. Is that what come up in your mind?
Probably not as simplistic as a site visit. That is that we visit in the area, we interact, and then we leave. It's not that simple. That is why we come up with plans with of transferring basic necessities as well, transferring like tutors, for example, to teach the students in that particular area about more fundamental knowledges. So it sounds like a site visit, but given the logistical difficulties that might have already happened, if we chose to do a site visit instead, we will instead optimize this trip, I should say, to conduct a direct service to address their most urgent problems, for example, the lack of basic necessities and stuff like that. But importantly, the identification of the problem is what I think is what differentiates this with other solutions, given that other solutions probably only come as a one-time thing. The solution would probably be more focused not only to deal with the most urgent problem, but also to identify that particular problem to begin with. Yeah, I think that's all. That's what I can provide.
Yeah. If that's what you can provide, there's nothing to ask anymore. Thank you.
Okay, we still have one judges left. Raffi, we still have 10 minutes for the question and answer session.
Okay, thank you very much, Maybot. Hello, Justin. My questions actually are quite similar with the other judges. I still don't quite understand on what's the issues here and what's the solution specifically. So I will just mention some of my comments, and maybe you can give us just the justification on your proposal. Yeah. First, I don't see the direct connection between the issues that you've just mentioned and the solution you proposed, specifically the direct community service one. The social media publication, I can still see it as reasonable. But the direct community service one, you've mentioned earlier that the problem in Antikong are largely based on economical problems, facilities problems, services problem, logistic problems. Well, the direct community service solutions that you've proposed focused on, I don't know, elementary education, sort of like that, focused on education. And even so, if there is a potential government regulation negligence, still, how would your solution proposal connect to this problem? How would you justify your proposal? Thank you.
So I think there's quite apologies, quite a bit misconception in the link between the solution and the solvency of the issue. That is, the social media publication that is one of the solutions proposed is designated to push for the trends for governments to make changes. However, the direct community service in that area is not intended to push the government to make changes because, as I mentioned before, that's probably not realistically possible. What that action does is not only to solve the direct problem that they might have that I mentioned, which is like lack of basic necessities, for example, or lack of familiarity in doing transactions based on using rupiah as a currency. Or secondly, is the only how we can accurately identify the existing problem is if we directly come to that particular area, interact with the people, ask them what their problems probably are at this certain point, and therefore the next iterations will be more specific. So it's a long-term game. It's not directly, like a one-time thing and then everything changes. As I mentioned, that's not realistically possible. What is possible is that we do it in steps that might potentially change the long-term trajectory of this sub-district. I think that's how the solution probably links with the issue that arises.
Okay, so this is basically just the part one of a bigger scheme. Yeah.
As of right now, that is the planning. That's why we
Okay,
want to
okay.
identify this, the problem first, and therefore the next will be more specific. Yes.
Okay, I think that answer a lot of my questions. So I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Raffi. We will still have 7 minutes left for the question and answer session. Maybe another judges want to ask or comments or have another follow-up questions. Bang Togi, Mbak Iva, Bu Heni, Raffi, it's okay. Okay, if there is
I'm sorry if I may add something. Just a last remark.
okay, last ini ya conclusion. Okay.
Sure. So this idea, I would admit, might not sound original, as Bu Iva mentioned previously. However, given that the current existing efforts to solve the issues in that area are largely specific, we would like to flip the order a bit. We would like to go general prior to going specific. And therefore, given that other actions probably don't cover this area, and given that other actions probably cooperate with local people only to maximize on a specific potential, we would choose to identify what potential should we maximize next. And this is the only way that we can do that. I hope that addresses the problems of originality. And if there are no more that I can say, I rest this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We can give applause to Justin for the presentation. Okay, next. The second contestant, Mas Cecep, you can help me with that. Drawings. Yeah. What's that? Meita. Okay, Meita. Meita Kiasa Salsabila. Meita, you can prepare for your presentation first. Okay, Maita, just like the previous contestant, you will have 15 minutes for the presentation and you will have 30 minutes for the question and answer session. Okay?
Tes.
Yeah. So I will start. Wait. Okay, you may start your presentation.
My presentation in 3, 2, 1. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya. Greetings to us all. Honorable judges and abang ba audiences, my name is Maita Cara Salsabila from batch 2021. In this delightful afternoon, I cannot put a smile on my face because the memory of how women farmers in rural areas experience unequal access to information and also facility shattered my heart. Hence why, in this presentation, I will present to you my proposal titled Optimization of Smart Agriculture Super App through Itani Project to increase women farmers group productivity, realizing food security in Indonesia. Before discussing further about my proposal, I will tell you a little of background story why I chose this topic. Back in 2022, I was volunteering to help and also carry out discussion with the women farmers group in Kabupaten Pringsewu, Provinsi Lampung, my hometown. And I was surprised and also amazed that apparently many housewives in rural areas utilize their home yard to be farmland. And when I dig deeper research into it, BPS data showed that there are around 8 million women farmers in Indonesia. However, 40% of these women farmers experience unequal access to information and also facility. Unequal access to information occurs because these women are housewives. They are not prioritized when it comes to training and educations and also informations in regards to how to develop their farmland. Unequal access to facility also occurs because they are housewives. They have husbands and children to take care of. They have very limited mobility. They cannot maximally utilize the facility that's already accessed in the status quo. They also are very limited when it comes to when they want to market their products. So that's why in my proposal, I hope that this will be in line to achieve the sustainable development goals, which are zero hunger, quality education, gender equality, that all of those things will eventually trickle down to economic growth at the very the smallest scale, which is the household scale. First, I want to discuss about the productivity potential in Indonesia. Apparently, the agricultural sector is the third largest contributor to our GDP. It means that agriculture is something that the people of Indonesia massively do. Secondly, there are so many technological advances that already exist in the status quo to support the development of agriculture sector. And the Ministry of Agriculture is also one of the ministry that is very technologically innovative. They have their own remote sensing satellite to monitor the condition of farmland in the rural areas, and they watch it from a room they call agriculture war room. Thirdly, there are already 70,760 villages that are equipped with internet connection, and the Ministry of Communication and Informatics also has the commitment to expand the internet connection in rural areas through their program called Desa Broadband Terpadu. Lastly, there are also a variety of funding scheme or financing scheme in agriculture sector. We have state budget allocations, we have domestic investment as well as foreign investment. All of these potentials lead to me thinking that agriculture sector in Indonesia should have utilized the concept of smart agriculture. So what is smart agriculture in this context? Smart agriculture is the implementation of Internet of Things. In this context, focuses on data collecting and also data analysis to provide informations to help farmers decision making. One of the country that has already utilized this smart agriculture concept is in Myanmar. In Myanmar, companies, government institutions like Ministry of Agriculture and Irrigation, as well as financial institutions, collaborated to create an agricultural application that can be used by the small-scale farmers in Myanmar. this application provide features like marketplace feature, consultation features, as well as financial help feature to help these small scale farmers get access towards those kind of things. And this agriculture application has helped small scale farmers in Myanmar to diversify the food, to increase the quality of food, as well as maintaining food security in the smallest scale, which is in their rural area scale. And because of due to this success story, I propose a project called Itani Project. In this Itani project, we have three main priority areas. First is data analytics. So in this area, we utilize the remote sensing satellite that already access under the Ministry of Agriculture. That this technology cannot only used by the Ministry of Agriculture, but also can be used by the small scale farmers, specifically the women farmers group in rural areas, to monitor the condition of the farmland of their farmland. And second area is the consultancy services. So we help this women farmers group in rural areas get access to have a consultation with the not only agriculture expert but as well as legal experts to help them with their problems that they are facing in the rural areas. And last feature is our last priority area is business opportunity. So we provide to them, to the users of this application, an information regarding information of commodity prices that we gather from Ministry of Agriculture as well as Bulog, and we also provide the marketplace feature as well as financial help feature. All of this feature is integrated into one super application so that this women farmers group or these small scale farmers can get access to all of those things in only by using one application. Because the problem in the status quo is that although those kind of feature is already accessed in some kind of agricultural application, but one agricultural application can only provide one until two access towards those kind of features. So it is very inefficient and ineffective. That's why I proposed this project. However, in proposing this project, we still face challenges and also opportunity. Let's discuss about the challenges first. In the status quo, the state budget allocations towards the Ministry of Agriculture is still is decreasing from 2015 until this day. And second challenges is the government function is not really harmonized. They tend to take actions individually, so it leads to the development of agriculture sector tends to be stagnant. But however, we also have our opportunity in realizing this project. We have many technological advances that can be optimized and integrated in the status quo, and we have many potential collaborations that might happen within the government institutions, within the company, and all of other stakeholders. So, in realizing this, I propose that we do this in 4 steps. First, we need to increase the state budget allocation for the agriculture sector. Second, we need to integrate and also optimize all of the technological advances that already exist in the status quo into one super application under the Itani project so that it can be used by the small-scale farmers, specifically the women farmers group in rural areas, more effectively and more efficiently. And last, the government institutions and other stakeholders, they need to synergize and they need to take actions more in a collaborative way so that the development the development can be increased under our project. And last, we need to do socialization about how to do this application, about about the objective of this project, and so on and so forth towards the targeted people, towards the targeted marginalized group. And we also need to do evaluation periodically about this project so that the project can reach its own maximum potential. This is a smart solution because first, it's specific. It targets the women farmers group in rural areas to reduce the inequality of access and information that they experience in status quo. It is measurable because the success indicator is the data productivity growth of this women farmers group. It is acceptable because it is not productivity growth of this women farmers group. It is acceptable because it is not against any norms. And instead, it helps us provide constitutional right to information and also right to have decent job towards this women farmers group. It is realistic because we utilize what already there in the status quo, and we optimize it into our project. And it is time bound because I expect this project can be done in 4 phases in the period of 7 years. So what do I expect from my project? Just like the quotes, gender equality is the goal that will help abolish poverty, that will create more equal economies, fairer societies, and happier men, women, and children. So with this project, I hope that the inequality of access and information, and also a facility that is experienced by the women farmers group, can be reduced, and they can increase their productivity as a farmer, and this productivity will lead to them increasing the quality of food, increasing their household income, for example, and also maintaining the food security, at least in the small scale, which is in the rural area scale. And for all these reasons, any comments and questions and also recommendations from the judges will be very helpful to perfect my proposal. That's all for my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, Jack. Thank you for the presentation. Give applause for Maita. Okay, now we will start the question and answer session. Judges, if any of you want to start first. Bu Heni, Bu Iva, or Raffi, or Bang Togi. Okay, you may start.
Generally, I think it's a good idea, and it's a good angle because you are trying to empower a generally marginalized group. But I think this has the general idea of trying to modernize the agriculture industry and farmer access has been done before. And they have not been successful. So Tani Hub and Jaring Pangan, they've already conducted a similar exercise. Now, based on this, I have two questions. The first one, you keep saying super app. Do you have an idea or do you have a plan on how to fund this super app? And do you plan to monetize the super app or the users for the super app to be sustainable? Because I think it'll be impossible if we do not consider any sort of, it would be impractical as well if we do not consider funding and sustainability. That's one. Number two is, given that Tani Hub was very extensive in its products, the main idea is the same, but it had, I think, 6 to 7 sub-services, including peer-to-peer lending, and it received significant funding, but yet it is now currently under debt suspension proceedings. Have you considered or make a comparison, because it's clearly the same idea? The difference is yours is more women specific, I think. And that is probably another problem in of itself, because Tani Hub cater to a much larger audience. It provides not only from your solution, it's more to a direct to customer selling because it's a marketplace. Tani Hub provides B2B even. Big businesses can buy. So it was a more extensive exercise, but it has failed. Currently failing because it's under suspension and debt proceedings. So do you have any comparison, or have you made a comparison, and whether or not you have any ways, or have you considered steps that you are going to take to make sure that the same mistakes at Tani Hub will not happen to your idea? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Togi, for the first. I would like to address the first question first regarding the funding and also the sustainability of the application. For the funding, of course, in my projection, for this application to succeed, we have to utilize three kind of funding. First is the state budget allocations under the Ministry of Agriculture. Second is the domestic investment as well as foreign investment. Because after doing research, I know that apparently there are many domestic and also foreign investments invested in the agriculture sector, and I think that because of the benefit and also the vision carried out by this project, we can also gather investment in this project. But maybe another way to get funding is not necessarily monetizing the application and the users, but it's more like taking profit from maybe advertisement or any other kind of options that's not really capitalistic. For example, that's not really disturbing the user experience within our application, because this application is the idea of this application is for social responsibility. So I hope that any kind of profit options that we might take, for example, like advertisement, it will not directly hamper the basis of this application, which is the social responsibility. And for the Tani Hub, for the comparison to the Tani Hub, yes, I must admit that Tani Hub, they have a much more bigger audience, because they're not specifically targeting to this to only one small marginalized group. However, maybe the difference between my project and this Tani Hub application is that in this project, project it will be under the direct supervision of the Ministry of Agriculture. So the Ministry of Agriculture, they have the vision to increase the productivity of the agriculture sector in a bigger scale. But however, when we try to help this women farmers group, although they may be small in number, they may be just another marginalized group, but when we try to help them increase their productivity, the productivity in the bigger scale will also increase, right? So this will be like the way that the Ministry of Agriculture intervene in this application will help the sustainability of the application in the long run, because we will do socialization with the women farmers group. We will do evaluation as well to this project, and I think this is the kind of thing that is not done by the Tani Hub. And although we have much more small number of audiences, but I think this is not only just a matter of number, because if this kind of project proposed to the women farmers group, and women farmers group can utilize it the way we project them to utilize it in its maximum potential of this application, this women farmers group will keep using the application. They will keep using the application to help them maintain their job as a farmer, as well as help them increase the household income, for example, when from home, by also taking care of their husbands and children. And I think this is also the perspective why this application will at least will not directly fail like what happened to the Tani Hub. Maybe that's my answer for the question, Mr. Togi.
Okay. My question will be regarding your contribution as a law school students. Yeah, you are mentioning in your paper about the legal aid. I don't think that there is a necessity to provide a legal aid. Have you identify any legal problems the stakeholder, in this case, would face, that what kind of legal aid, specific legal aid that you may provide with this application? And then the second is, you're also mentioning that to utilize this application as a, I don't know, you are mentioning as a secondary market, where they can utilize it to sell the product. Do you think that they really need that kind of application? Because, well, we are talking about selling the the product, yeah, you have to make sure that they provide fresh, or I don't know what kind of uh, product that can be provided with this kind of application. And do you it's just was what I mean that do you want to provide it as a marketplace, or just a platform that the user might use it just to sell it, and then you just you enable them to sell, but you don't provide any other services? Do you have the concrete idea about that?
Okay, thank you for the question, Bu. I will first address the question about legal aid. So, when I do research, apparently, farmer and also woman farmer in the rural areas, they also face legal problems, like for example land dispute, and also problems in regards to business contract, for example. However, I realize and I admit that it is kind of impossible for us to directly help this farmer in the rural area. However, when we provide them consultation to legal expert, at least this farmer in the rural areas, they can get like general overview about the problems that they have. About the problems that they have, they can get general education about how legal perspective works in land dispute, for example, or in business contract. Because in the status quo right now, they even don't have access towards those kind of things. So I think this, although this is not directly helping them to solve the problem in regards to land dispute or business contract, but at least we provide them access to the general overview of the education, of the law education itself. Secondly, about the kind of commodity that we sell in these applications. So when we're talking about women farmers group, they're not only selling raw products; they also sell processed products. So I think this is a very the variety of commodity that will be sold in this application will be very various, because they can sell processed product that of course can be sent to outside of the town, for example. But they can also sell out raw products, like for example bawang, or singkong or cassava or things like that. And yeah, I think this also answers your question. And thirdly, about the concrete form of application, is it only marketplace or things like that? First, the when we're taking the perspective of the women farmers group or the small scale farmers, of course the application is not only a marketplace, because they not only can sell their products, but also they can have consultant they can have consultancy services, they can have financial services within the application, because those are the things that I integrate in my project, and that is why the reason why it is called super application. And but in the perspective of the people, of the user outside of the small scale farmers, yeah, maybe this application will be helpful for them as a marketplace only, because I don't think because I think that in the perspective of other people, they don't really need any other feature. They just need the feature that will connect them to directly buy products from the small scale farmers. Maybe that's all I can provide you with answer. Is that enough? Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from judges? Ibu Iva or Raffi first? Okay, Raffi.
Audible, Bang.
Check, check. Okay. I have just done some research on the internet, and I saw that this e-tani application have been discussed before. Have you aware of that?
No, Bang, apparently, but
Okay.
I must admit that agricultural application is already exists in the status quo.
Okay, I've just read some paper on the seminary on information technology and application regarding the Itani and also some similar applications in Google Play. Yeah. Okay, so maybe that's just for the opener of my questions. My first question will be: have you done a depth research and an analysis on how well the subject in this regard would react to this idea?
Um, I didn't do much research about it, but when I do volunteer in the Kabupaten Pringsewu, I realized that this woman farmers group, they already open to technology. They already have internet connection. They have their own smartphones, for example. And I think when we provide them access like this digital agriculture or smart agriculture, they certainly will open up themselves for this. And I think this is not really that will not really hard for us to propose this idea to them. However, in Presentasi Bahasa Indonesia, Bang Daniel also asked me about this concern. How about those kind of farmer who's not open with technology, like they use
Yes.
kearifan lokal and things like that. I feel like this application is only a form of facility, right? This is a form of recommendation and also a form of information towards these people. If these people in small scale area, they want to still use the kearifan lokal, for example, we're not gonna push or force them to use this directly, because it will just cause chaos. But instead, we will try to do more like a soft approach, like socialization and things like that. And the moment when they realize that they need this kind of facility, they will eventually use it also. Maybe that's the answer, Bang. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Maita. Maybe you should also consider the technological advancement in those areas. Okay, my last question will be: would you collaborate with other organization or communities or institutions other than the Ministry of Agriculture? And if you were, what will it be?
Okay, so first, this is a multidisciplinary project, right? The kind of maybe students or maybe experts that will involve in this project is not only agriculture expert or legal expert, but also maybe IT expert. This is in this perspective of academic. Secondly, we also encourage participation from financial institutions, because we have to provide this woman farmers group with financial help. And maybe other participation from non-governmental organization in agriculture is also very welcome. So we're not really closed in the variety of collaborations, Bang.
Okay, thank you, Maita. I think that's all from me.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Maita. So, my question is basically more technical, because I see that this is a quite ambitious idea. You are planning to make a super apps, like I can see big data to satellite. You provide consulting in legal and business, which is basically also FISA ideas. And also you provide peer-to-peer lending. You also provide marketplace like Daniel ideas. So like I'm even don't know how to start and which topic to focus on. So the problem is, Maita, even the super apps like Gojek, they are start from only one ideas, right? Hauling app, and then they are grow from that. So how can you make this project so big, like, and you are solely based on government funding for this? No, where is it? Who will funding it?
So it's not only limited to state budget allocations or government funding, but also we can utilize domestic investment as well as foreign investments, because in the status quo, agriculture sector also not only rely on state budget allocation, but also rely on domestic and foreign investment.
Okay. Okay, next is what can make people put their money in the application usually, because there are a lot of user using it. Because I'm getting tired of these application ideas, because so a lot of you using application. we already have a lot of application. What differ your application with the others? What can tempting the user to use it? Are you planning to like Gojek burning money, giving discount and so on and so on, and then just raising the price and so on? And beside that, the idea is basically to help the marginalized society for women, right? But in this application, I don't see particularly what makes it focus on catering women needs, because it is basically can be used for anyone, not only the woman farmer, but uh, all farmers can use it. So I think this is not related to marginalized people, because basically everyone can use it, right? So can you help to convince me, like, what is your idea aim to?
Okay, thank you, Bu Iva, for the question. I will address the second question first, and how this project actually catering women. So, in the status quo, I must admit that there are all that this application or this project, it can be used by anyone. But however, in my project, I try to first launch this project towards the women farmers group, because those women are the ones who suffer from unequal access to information and also facilities. So maybe this application will not only cater to them, but when we launch it first to them, they will at least have a better starting point to increase the productivity of their farmland. Maybe that's the question. That's the answer for your second question. And first, what kind of benefit that I propose so that this project can be sustainable? So the benefit is what differs this project with the application status quo is that the application like Tani Hub or Agree or Digitani in the status quo, they only one application only provide one until two access towards the feature. Maybe for example like Agree, they are an agriculture application that only provide peer-to-peer lending for the small scale farmer. Or in Digitani, they only provide consultancy services. In Taniha, for example, they provide like business to business lending, for example, or business to business marketplace, for example. But this difference of a feature makes it very inefficient for the small scale farmers. Specifically, because they need to install all of those three applications for them to access all of the benefits. So
Okay, sorry if I can give a response. But I think will be more efficient if you only focus on one topic. See, even Gojek, they have a lot of feature, but they must at first they have a lot of very much features, but at the end they only focus in car and food and so on. So basically, it's not necessary you have a lot of feature. It will make it doable. Sometimes it will make it not manageable because too much things that you want to do in one time. So I think what things that you think will become an advantage, it is basically a disadvantage of these apps. Okay, continue.
okay, maybe what differentiate us from Gojek is when Gojek first launched their application, there is no such thing like online ojek. So that's why Gojek can start from very small idea, very specific idea like ojek online. However, when we're talking about smart agriculture, there are already many applications, but they're failing, right? Because they're failing because they cannot provide such extensive access for this small scale farmers for these small scale farmers. That's why this is actually the foundation of why optimization in my project is actually an integration of all of those things in the status quo that already exist, so that the failure in the status quo can be accommodated into a success under our project. But however, yesterday in Presentasi Bahasa Indonesia, Paprika also suggested to me to add and also add features and also explanations in regards to agriculture insurance. And I think if I am given the chance, all of the suggestions from the judges, I will be accommodated in I will accommodate it in my proposal. Maybe that's my response. Thank you.
Is it quite enough, Bu Iva? Okay. Another judges maybe want to ask questions to Maita, Ibu Heni. We still have 7 minutes. No other questions? Okay. Okay, if there is no other questions from the judges, we will stop the presentation and answer and question sessions for Maita. Give applause for Maita for the
Thank you.
presentation. Okay. Okay, next. We still have 3 more contestants. Okay, the one that seems so excited from the first, yeah. Okay, Daniel, you can prepare for your presentation. Cecep, can you help with the presentation?
Check, check. Am I audible if I speak like this?
Yes, you
Thanks.
are quite audible. Same, you will have 15 minutes for your presentation and you will have 30 minutes for the answer and question sessions. You can set your own timer if you want to, but if not, I will give you the 5-minute reminder before the time is up.
Thank you.
Okay, you can start your presentation from now.
I want to open my presentation with a number that may seem relatively small. 230,000. 230,000 is the number of people who had to give up against cancer because they cannot afford accessible medication. But 230,000 does not tell the whole story. 230,000 hides the story of a single mother who had to give up getting medication for cancer so she can send her only daughter to school. 230,000 masks the faces of a son that is mourning and crying over his dead father who lost the battle against heart disease. 230,000 masks the lives that were never lived, the love that was never had, and the final birthday never celebrated. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Nama Budaya. Good afternoon, honorable judges, Mr. Pangaribuan, Mrs. Karima, Mr. Marlena, and Mr. Altarik, and audiences. My name is Daniel Tingara. Today, I would like to present the result of my creative idea research entitled Pharmaline, Strategies to Combat Strategic Diseases, Heart, Cancer, and Diabetes by increasing accessibility of essential medicines through the simplification of supply chain and the utilization of online media. In this research, I was honored to be guided directly by 2 of my excellent supervisors, Mrs. Dr. Yeti Komasari and Mr. Dr. Chris Wijoyo, whom I believe are watching through live stream right now. I am also grateful to have had fruitful conversations and discussion with Faculty of Law Universitas Indonesia lecturers, such as Mrs. Gumala Dewi, Mr. Nando, Mr. Dita, Mr. Togar, Mr. Aad, Mrs. Ira, and Mrs. Fallon. To start off my presentation, I want to present a very simple statistic. 15, 179, and 20. Each of these numbers represent the proportion of people with heart disease, cancer, and diabetes in Indonesia. To data scientists, these are just numbers. To the health industry, these are just diseases. But to the hundreds of thousands of people who have to experience this catastrophe, these are thousands of stories. Stories of pain, struggle, and suffering. Because 15 out of 1,000 people experience heart disease means 1.25 families who are shattered because they have to lose their loved ones. 179 from 100,000 people who experience cancer means 236,000 children who have to wake up getting traumatized by the sound of tears of their father who suffer from chemotherapy. And 920 from 1,000 people who experience diabetes means 235,000 hopes are crushed. These 3 numbers also represent a huge amount of government spending of 19 trillion rupiah in a year only for these 3 strategic diseases. Aside from that, these strategic diseases are increasingly threatening Indonesia's productive age population. And this is a crucial issue, not only in terms of health, but also in terms of the nation's economy, because experts estimated that 74% of the nation's economic development depends on the working and productive age population. This is made even more critical by Indonesia's direction of population to reach the demographic dividend by 2030 to 2040, which is a situation where the productive age population is bigger than the non-productive age population. Judges, even though I pick these strategic diseases in specific, my creative idea that I put forward will not only benefit the main target of audiences, namely the productive age population and those who suffer from these three diseases. This idea will generate benefit for the entire of Indonesian population in the form of positive externalities, whereby guaranteeing the health and the well-being of productive age population, we can also ensure the rest of Indonesian benefit from the nation's economic development. And here is the economic logic. With more healthy productive age population, that means more jobs are filled. And that means the nation's GDP also increases due to an increase of production and consumption of goods and service. And that means exchange rates get higher and it reduces the cost of goods and commodities, which is beneficial to everyone. Before I move further to the meat of my presentation, which is the root cause of the inaccessible pricing of the drug and the solution I propose towards it, I'd like to pose a question to the audience. Glyphec imatinib, 400 milligrams, a drug for leukemia, blood cancer. The cost of production for manufacturer is cost at 400,000 rupiah. My question is simple. Can anyone in the audience guess how much do consumer have to pay to get this drug? Anyone? I heard 1 million. Judges, audience, this drug is marketed at 10 million rupiah from a 400,000 cost from manufacturer. And when the drug reaches the consumer, it is costed at 10 million rupiah. The obvious question is, how can that be the case? How is that possible and what caused that? Based on my research, this drug price increase is caused by the long and complex supply chain for drug procurement system. And here is how the drug procurement system in Indonesia is. The drug started from manufacturer, then is sold to a distributor, which is often associated as pedagang besar pharmacy in Indonesian term. Then is sold again to sub-distributor, a wholesaler. Then is sold to retail, pharmacy, and hospital. Then it eventually reaches the consumer. The issue is, every single time the drug moves in the supply chain, it experiences price increase because every party in the supply chain system charges an approximate of 15 to 20% margin, with retailer charging 20% to 25% margin. So that when the drug reaches the end of the supply chain system, and when the drug reaches the consumer, it has experienced a total of 85% to 125% price. Take Permadexat, for example, a cancer drug that is priced at 11 million rupiah per unit, a price that most Indonesian population cannot access, and government themselves will struggle to cover for these costs. Just imagine. A drug for cancer is 11 million rupiah per unit. 1 unit is consumed every 3 weeks, which is equivalent to 17 times a year. 11 multiplied by 17 multiplied by hundreds or thousands of people who suffer from cancer in Indonesia. It is not surprising that Indonesian government has to spend 19 trillion rupiah in a year only for these 3 strategic diseases. Now, based on these problems, what is the solution I propose? I propose a solution with 2 main parts. First is to simplify the supply chain, and second is to establish pharma line. First is to simplify the supply chain, and there are 2 main parts of discussions that I want to make. First is on regulatory framework, and second is on facilities and transportation. First, on regulatory framework. The current regulatory framework does not accommodate mechanisms in which the manufacturer, distributor, and sub-distributor can distribute the drug directly to consumers. And that's what caused the long and complex supply chain. The first thing we need to get done is to ask government to make exception for the strategic diseases that allows for simplification of its supply chain. And the thing to do based on my research and discussion with my supervisors is to make an academic paper called as naskah academic in Indonesian term, which explains the situation of these strategic diseases in Indonesia, the prevalence of it, and how it impacted the productive age population, the importance of productive age population, the positive and negative externalities towards combating these strategic diseases, and the high price of the medicine caused by the long and complex supply chain. This academic paper will also ensure that there's an explanation on how government can still be involved in supervising the drug and the drug seller based on mechanisms that have existed in status quo. For example, distribution permits, the implementation of pharmacist duties, and also the direct supervision from the National Food and Drug Control. By that, from the government, it is quite resolved. And based on my research, this is not that unfeasible. Why? Because number one, countries such as United States and Japan have in fact simplified their drug procurement system that have lowered the prices of their drug. But second, Indonesian government in fact has simplified the drug chain system during the COVID-19 pandemic. The COVID-19 vaccines and medicines that initially are cost at 500,000 rupiah per unit now can be quite low and cheap, so government can subsidize it for free for all Indonesian population. And that's because government has an agreement with manufacturers and simplify the chain system to reach the consumer. So the price can decrease and it can be subsidized towards the people. Now, interesting fact is the mortality rate of heart diseases is even now still higher than those of COVID-19. So the question is, if government can do exception for COVID-19, then there's no reason, and it can only be right if government can make exceptions for these three strategic diseases as well.
You have 5 minutes left.
The second area of discussion is going to be the facilities and transportation. In terms of facility, the main obstacle for manufacturer to distribute drug directly to consumer is the lack of drug storage facilities. So in the absence of drug storage facilities, prices have increased because the transportation costs increase. The solution here is to have government involvement to build drug storage facilities in strategic provinces where it is most prevalent of these strategic diseases. While I do understand that government will have to incur cost, it is government firstly constitutional obligation to ensure the access to health based on Article 28H of the Indonesian Constitution. But also secondly, government will have to incur more cost if government does not do it, when government has to cover for medicine price that are still high, especially when the World Health Organization has estimated that these three strategic diseases will increase substantially in 2030 to 2040. The last point of discussion is the establishment of Pharmaline. Pharmaline will be a marketplace that connects manufacturers and consumers or health facility. But different with other marketplaces, because we focus specifically on drug, the thing that we are going to do is to make services based on the types of the drug. So there are three types of drug: over-the-counter drug, which anyone can buy. There's prescription drug that only health facilities and the patient that have prescription from doctors can buy. And there's prescription drug that require direct supervision from media personnel that can only be sold to health facilities. Aside from that, there are two other features. The first is pre-order mechanism, in which the health facilities and the consumer can pre-order drugs from manufacturers. This is so manufacturers can have an accurate prediction of production of the drug, and the health facilities and consumer can make sure that the drug is delivered to them in a timely manner. The second mechanism is we are going to dedicate a specific section to proliferate the knowledge of drug usage. So as simple as telling people what are over-the-counter drug, what it means by consuming 3 times a day, and how do you get prescription from doctors, and etc. Everyone, behind every statistic of heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, there lies 1,000 of stories of pain. But today, we stand together with a heart and a soul and a resolve to put an end to their suffering. So let's together draw a straight line to life. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Give applause for Daniel. Okay, Daniel, we will have 30 minutes for the question and answer session. All judges. Any of you want to start the questions first? Ibu Ifa, Ibu Heni, or Raffi, or Bang Togi. Oke.
Hello. Hi, Daniel. Thank you for the presentation. One of the main principles of economics is market forces. If you make something, if you make a work or a product expensive or rewarding, the theory is that you incentivize people to make more of it because it's rewarding, right? And this is also the theory that supports, for example, price gouging in certain natural disaster areas. Making drugs expensive or making the healthcare industry or drugs is expensive is not because the manufacturers are greedy and they want as much profit as possible. It is expensive because the research and development needed to develop drugs, not only that particular drug, but also other drugs and other treatment is expensive. The reason why we had a very efficient and fast delivery of the COVID vaccine is because there's already been consistent research on the RNA method, on the RNA delivery methodology. There are already limitations towards this quote unquote greediness that you are trying to point out. Through limitation of drug patent, which I'm sure Maheni will probably say something about this, and the obligation for generic medicines, right? Do you then agree or do you not agree that market forces are better and that it's important for us to have certain drugs to be expensive because indirectly we're encouraging research? If we don't make it worthwhile for people to do research and be rewarded for it, people will stop innovating. That's my first question. So that's about market forces and what you think about market forces. My second question. My understanding is that the Ministry of Health has a national drug committee and I think a national formularium body that discusses drugs that they think are important and can be sold in Indonesia, including the pricing structure that they think makes sense. So in this committee, the Minister of Health and a panel of experts discuss certain drugs that are available internationally and whether or not we should allow it to be in Indonesia. Do you know about these two bodies and what do you think? That's number two. Number three, pharma line. Pharma line.
Mr. Pangaribuan, if you don't mind, can I take a pen just to make sure I conclude
Yeah,
your
I
question?
assume you already had one, but I mean,
Sorry. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Sorry.
it's okay. Okay, last question, yeah. Pharma line is if I can conclude it this way, please correct me if I'm wrong, is a direct to consumer business model, right?
Yeah.
So manufacturer to consumer. So you're
To-
trying to cut the middleman, right? You're trying to
Yes.
cut the pedagang besar farmasi, you're trying to cut the distributors, sub-distributors, and hospitals.
Hospitals can still buy, so it's a direct to health facilities or consumers.
Okay.
But we are cutting the distributors.
The issue with that is, do you know whether, specifically cancer drugs, do you know whether the majority of them are produced in Indonesia or outside Indonesia? My guess is, and based on my knowledge, please correct me if I'm wrong, most of the important and strategic drugs are made outside of Indonesia because of supply chain issues, because of raw materials. 90, 80% of all drug material comes from China. The rest, I think, is from India, right? So there is an upside, or there is a purpose for the existence of distributors or pedagang besar farmasi. There is an obligation and there is a protection embedded in, it has been revised, but all I can remember is PRK BPOM 24 2017 that would ensure that that prohibits direct selling from principals. Why? Because if you have to use a distributor, one, you enable the economy. So you empower Indonesian companies to become distributors. Two, right? You at least try to have a transfer of technology. And three, finally, you enable the possibility of these distributors to develop the drugs themselves. So that if you stop all that, especially if you do it OTA, over the air, yeah, there is no incentive for these principals, these drug manufacturers, to establish a business in Indonesia, to establish a supply chain or a distribution chain in Indonesia, thereby empowering the economy, let alone an incentive for them to build the product or develop the product in Indonesia. What you are proposing with Pharmaline is creating a huge market. You're just creating an unchecked, no barrier entry for these big principals and manufacturers to directly sell to Indonesian people. There's 250, 270. Say you take 10%, 50% out of that population that needs the drug. You're not empowering the local economy with Pharmaline. If you have Pharmaline, what are you going to do with this notion, with this ratio, that local distributors and local companies, they need to be empowered? So those are my 3 questions. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pangaribuan. I'll answer your questions in turn. The first question, correct me if I'm wrong, is on the regulatory system that have existed to control price, and in regards to the concern about encouraging R&D for making more drugs in the future. The first part of the question in regards to the regulatory system, indeed, based on my research, I agree to you that there has been effort by government to negotiate a price and to set what is called as harga eceran tertinggi in the Indonesian term. But based on my research, harga eceran tertinggi mechanism is still not effective based on the incentive that you pointed out, that these manufacturers and distributors are economic actor which have the incentive to gouge out the pricing mechanisms, and because the supply changes a lot, so you have to undergo and face a lot of economic actors at once. The current regulatory system is not strict enough to make sure that each economic actor do not take a really huge amount of margin to gouge out the price of medicine. The second question, I agree to you. Obviously, the economic actors are more incentivized if the prices are high, so that it can encourage R&D investment. There are 2 prongs of responses. The first is, I think this is not mutually exclusive, as in the buyers and the investor of R&D project is not always coming from the profit of consumers, but it is the government in themselves because of the need of the diseases, by the fact that a lot of people are suffering and there's a lot of people's demand for medicines to be created. By that, government, especially from government from developed countries, are still going to incentivize manufacturers to create R&D project to create new drugs. But also secondly, in terms of encouraging R&D, I'd like to flip a little bit the economic mindset that this, because it is cheap, then manufacturer will not get a huge amount of profit. Because another economic principle is also profit is multiplied by demand. And I'll argue that because now drug is more accessible, there's more demand coming from society. There are people who could not have otherwise access to drug and will have opted for a cheaper alternative will now buy from you. And that's how you get a bigger profit that by the logic of you will encourage R&D process from the manufacturer. But aside from that, even though I concede that your second question, I agree that there are indeed ministry bodies that help government to negotiate the price. And there are, for example, generic drugs, for example, that have existed. The first thing to say is a lot of the cancer diseases and a lot of the strategic diseases that I brought, there are no generic drugs that are proven to be credible in solving this disease. But the second prong of response is just the access to justice from society, because this is what hospitals have been doing to patients with BPJS system. They give them subpar treatment and they give them drugs that are less effective than the drug that you could have otherwise accessed by private mechanism that you buy by yourself. And I'll say that asking people who are sick to just concede with a subpar and generic drug is not probably what government will want to do or what government has a constitutional obligation to do. The last part of your question is very interesting, which is cutting distributor, it empowers them and not the local economy. The first thing to say is, I'll argue the flip, because the nation economic development will also suffer when productive age population cannot access adequate medicines. So in terms of nation's economic development is also contingent to productivity and making sure everyone is healthy. But the second prong of response in terms of distributor losing their job, I'll argue that these are only limited market of these three strategic diseases. So the local distributor can still access market for other diseases as well and can gain profit from that. And by that, these three strategic diseases are indeed done to prioritize the health and well-being of vulnerable people on the ground. But also secondly, I'll also argue that even if the local economy decreases in terms of the amount of profit distributors get, distributors are also parents to some extent, and therefore they are likely to accept this because they also understand that their surrounding, their loved one have possibility to suffer from these strategic diseases. And the last thing, and this is actually in my paper, Mr. Pangaribuan, we are going to force manufacturer to have an R&D project with us. So there's a co-production agreement, but that's only possible when we make sure we tell them that now it's more profitable for them. There's more market for them. Right now, even if they sell it to distributor, it's not a co-production agreement. They do not get the recipe. They cannot know how to produce the drug themselves. By our policy, we are going to make sure that the drug manufacturers get more profit, and therefore they are more willing and more incentivized once we force them with a legal landscape to co-produce the drug with the local pharmacy, for example, and there's a stronger R&D project. And this is quite similar with what has been done in India. Vatsalya pharmacies, the way we do it in India at that time is basically we make sure that the demand increases, it profits them off, and it opens more incentive for them to invest in the local market, and it incentivizes them more to want to have the R&D project with local player. If there's anything missing or anything that is unclear, I would love to entertain your question more. But thank you so much. That's a really interesting question, Mr. Pangaribuan. Thank you.
Another judges maybe? Raffi or Ibu Henny first? So who will start first? Raffi? Okay. Raffi first. That's okay.
Check. Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Hello, Daniel.
Hi.
First of all, I'd like to say I love how you use your ability of storytelling to deliver this presentation. As a former champion of storytelling competition myself, I would like to ask several questions, but actually my questions are quite similar to Bang Togis. Although I have prepared this question since like a couple days ago when I read your paper. So, first of all, how do you classify the so-called strategic diseases, which, based on your paper, includes three particular or specific diseases, namely heart disease, cancer, and diabetes? Is it purely based on the death rate, or do you have your own judgment regarding this? Because I have done a couple of readings, like from the University of Airlangga website. The 6 strategic diseases includes anthrax, rabies, avian influenza, leptospirosis plague or black death, and brucellosis. And also the classification of diseases, as I've read in Britannica, are classified into 8, which are topographic, anotopic, psychological, and so on. So how did you classify this? How do you give the term strategic disease towards these 3 specific diseases? Maybe that's my first question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Altarik. The way I base the strategic diseases are based on a lot of factors. Mortality rates is one of them. But another factors is number one, the impact to productive age population, because we are not only targeting diseases that are impactful to your health, that is the main factor, but also the nation's economy. But aside from that, it's also a consideration of price in the market right now. Whether the price of, for example, drugs for influenza is accessible or not, comparing to the price of cancer, but also a research on whether BPJS is sufficient to cover for this drug, on whether a lot of hospitals have been working together with BPJS to make sure that those types of drugs are covered. But also lastly, it's just in terms of whether there exists like generic drugs that can be a good replacement that have a equal or just slightly lower quality, and etc. That's why based on those considerations, I picked these 3 strategic diseases. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, so this is basically your personal classification, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's answer my first question. And I guess the next one is quite similar or exactly the same like Bang Togi's question, but I'll ask it anyway. Have you considered that this so-called long and complex supply chain of drug procurement in Indonesia, as you mentioned in your paper, is created on purpose to provide income for many parties involved, like the drug manufacturers, importers, distributors, sub-distributors, wholesalers, and health facilities, thus moving the economic wheel itself?
Yeah, that's correct. The purpose is indeed to empower distributors, but the response stays the same. The first one is in terms of empowering local distributor, there are other marketed medicines that still exist. And I'll argue that there are a lot of other diseases aside from these 3 strategic diseases, especially the prevalence that you just noted. There are other diseases that are prevalent as well. I think local distributor can profit off from that. Secondly, it's also the consideration as to why distributors will likely to accept this, because even if they are economic actor in one hand, they have another identity, which is they might be consumers as well. That's why even though distributors sell cancer medicines, they might be cancer patients themselves. Their loved one might be cancer patients themselves. And by that, I'll say that there will be high acceptance rates, especially because the paradigm in society, health has always been considered important since we are a child. And that's why, aside from other revolutionary supply chain simplification in other sector, I'll argue that in the health industry, it is particularly more acceptable by the fact that, let's say, in comparison to object online versus taxi, that's definitely killing local player. But at the end of the day, because it empower competition, it empowers the consumer at the end, which I'll argue numerically is bigger than the amount of local distributor that exists. I'll say that that's a beneficial policy on net. Also, lastly, we are not sacrificing local distributor, especially in the long term, because we are then going to have a cooperation, co-production agreement, empowering R&D project. And I'll argue that that empowers local pharmacy to be able to make their own medicine, because that's how we can learn recipes and etc. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's quite answer my questions. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do you know what is the policy behind the regulation that prohibit a pharmaceutical company to sell their product directly to the consumer?
Um, yes, I'm aware that there's one from Ministry of Health, and there's one particularly government regulation number 29, 2021.
Can you
Government
explain?
government regulation.
Yeah, can you explain more? There must be policy objective behind those policy, right? Uh-huh.
Um, so in Article 32, it is written that manufacturer, distributor, sub-distributor, agent, and wholesaler cannot sell directly to consumer. Based on my analysis, this provisions intended to indeed, number one, empower local player, for example, distributor, because that's how distributor, sub-distributor can get profit from that. But also,
Is that your own interpretation, or you have the information directly from the policymaker?
I did a primary data research gathering. As you can see from Fikriyansyah, the drug Fikriyansyah, the senior medical device from Ministry of Health Indonesia. There's also Andika Prayoga, which is the legal manager in Ministry of Health, and they said that this provision intended for three things. The first one is to empower local distributor. Second one is to ensure consumer protection in terms
Mhm.
of safety and to control prices as government will negotiate with the manufacturers. And also lastly is to ease out government tracing in terms of the data of how many, for example, sickness and etc.
Okay. So, well, there is what's it? There is a was it good or positive objective behind the regulation or the policy, right? So, yeah, the point is that do you think that you should mandate or you should obligate the manufacturer to sell the product directly to the consumer? In other case, it means that you are forcing them to expand their business. It means also that you need to get more capitals. Yeah, because manufacturing company, yeah, it should be focused on developing the product rather than they for the benefit for the society. Yeah, rather than doing the selling things like that. And because in terms of the product was it medicines, yeah, in some cases there should be some special treatment that cannot be conducted by a regular or a regular business player. That's why it should be specifically yeah conducted by specific business. Do you think that it would be what's it favorable for the manufacturer medicine company to be forced to sell the product directly? Okay, that's the first question. And then the second thing regarding the pharma lines, this program that you are propose, you are so who would was it organize this? Is this a kind of a platform or application or anything else? Yeah. And who would was it who would be the organizer of this? Because well, because distributing medicine needs special facilitations, so it would not be that easy to treat medicine as just like regular product that easy to be sold. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Marlena, for that question. To answer the first question, I indeed believe that will be beneficial for the manufacturer to be forced to sell directly to the consumer. And the reason is because of the economic theory. When you offer a more accessible pricing, you get more demand and you get more market from that. But aside from
From the side of the manufacturer, the manufacturer lose nothing because of this was it the distribution scheme. They still get the profit. The
Yes.
only thing that harm is consumer. They need to pay more.
Yes. Um,
But if you force them to have more capital to sell the product directly to the consumer, do you think that it will benefit the company?
Yep. Perhaps I'll rephrase it. What I meant by higher demand is I meant when the drug prices is more accessible, then the drugs that are ordered by consumer to the distributor, which is the amount of drugs bought by the distributor itself, will increase in terms of the amount, so the manufacturer get more profit. But also, secondly, it's just this model actually benefit manufacturer in a sense that it allows them to be more flexible in terms of their margin. So at the status quo, manufacturers, again, they probably want to charge, let's say, 1 million, but they cannot because they want to make sure that the long and complex supply chain, the drug doesn't become too inaccessible that no one can access it. So at the end of the day, let's say they charge it an 800,000 in the current system. But with our system that allows them to sell directly to consumers, it allows them to go higher a bit because I agree there. I argue there will be competition, so they will not be crazy about the price. But it allows them to be more flexible in charging. Let's say they increase it by 400,000 rupiah because now they don't have to pass like the distributor, which at the end of the day take margin again. So at the end of the day, they can ensure more access from society. They can be more flexible with their current margin of profit. And that's why, for those reasons, it will still benefit the manufacturers. Although a disclaimer is, I'll argue that they will not be crazy in jacking up their price because there will still be competition mechanism. Distributor will still exist. Other producers or manufacturers will still exist to that extent. Then they might increase their profit margin for a bit, but it's not going to be that high. But it's still going to be beneficial for them. Does that answer the first question? Thank you. The second question is in regards to, sorry, just checking my notes. Is it going to be a website and who is going to be organizing it? It is indeed going to be a website, a marketplace to be exact, that connect the manufacturers and the consumers and health facilities. The one that is organizing it, I planned and I'm planning, this is going to be state-owned enterprises or subsidiary. And the reason is it allows government and us to cooperate better in a sense that government has more data on the amount of hospitals and amounts of drugs that are needed, and government just have more access towards like negotiating the price to the manufacturers themselves and etc. So we can perhaps implement it in the current e-catalog system, which only applies to government-owned hospitals. We can expand to that. But the point is, I envision that this is going to be a state-owned subsidiary owned by the government. We are going to be part of the organizers, but the point is we need government involvement in terms of negotiating a price, making sure we have more access to data and information so that we can allocate the drugs more strategically to strategic provinces and etc. Does that answer the second question?
Okay, but that seems might was it create a new challenge, yeah, because imagine that the price of the medicine is low in Indonesia, yeah, so there might be parallel import to other country. That's why, yeah, maybe you need to consider whether, yeah, the manufacturer company, yeah, the the medicine company would likely to agree with your proposal.
That's an interesting input, Miss Marlena. If I go to the next level, I'm definitely going to incorporate that in my paper. But the question is in regards on whether manufacturer will agree with this policy. Again, the answer that I can give you right now, based on my research so far, is they will agree because the market of Indonesia, again, is so big. Like the cancer patients of Indonesia reaches the first in Southeast Asia region alone. So if the competition is against Malaysia or Singapore, which relatively, unfortunately, is more healthy than our population, but the point is, manufacturer will still agree because again, they are more flexible with their price range and etc. But the point is then they will agree because the market of Indonesia itself is huge. So even if there's mechanism where government will negotiate a price, it is already in status quo, but they still target Indonesia because of the market itself.
Yeah, but someone might misuse the program. Yeah, a seller, yeah, will buy the product which is cheap, right? And then sell them to the other country. That's why I call as the parallel import, and it would harm Indonesian people when we do need the product. But yeah, it turns out the product was purchased by the sellers. So you need to think about the specific preventions, or a procedure, to mitigate the risk.
Thank you so much. Definitely will incorporate that in my further research. The preliminary responses, I hope by incorporating it as a state-owned enterprise subsidiary, government will have more space and ability to regulate this kind of practice, because I agree with you, this is quite harmful for the nation economy and health. But yeah, if I go to the next level, I will be really happy to incorporate this, and I'll definitely need your help to further my research on that. Thank you.
I guess the time is already up for 30 minutes. I'm sorry, Miss Ifa, but I have to continue the presentation for the next contestant. Oh, okay. Okay. Maybe short questions, or only one question probably.
Thank you, Ma. So my question is, I just want to ask you, because the three main diseases that you mentioned, diabetes, cancer, and heart attack, are diseases due to the food and lifestyle. Some of them are from genetics, but it worse because of food and lifestyle. Why in this case you use preventive? Sorry, why not use preventive approach rather than repressive approach? So drugs is basically repressive approach. You cure it when it happen. But why don't find a solution that more preventive oriented, such as like using sugar tax? And drugs is not 100% effective to cure this disease. Like there are still change, people won't be cured because of drugs. So my question is, why don't you focus on the preventive approach? This is the first question. So the second question is, the supply chain exists because there are a supply. Basically, Indonesia is very big. You cannot just put one what to say it, what's it, gudang, like one storage, yes, one storage for all of the medicine needed in Indonesia. There are a supply chain because there are they need supply, they need distribution. So how you solve that? And I agree with me, Mbak Heni, that it will kill the medicine industry itself.
Yes.
Rather than using this policy, why don't you use selling price policy? I think it is more doable and won't killing the pharmaceutical industry. So that's the question from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Karima, for that question. To answer the first question on preventive measure versus repressive measure, there are three prongs of response. Firstly, preventive measure have been done in status quo. There are three main pillars of government health program, and two of them focus on preventive measure, making sure that people have access to more healthy food and etc. But I agree with you that sugar tax is a really interesting discussion. But my preliminary observation is, by sugar tax, rich people will definitely not be affected because they won't mind paying for more to consume sugar if that's what they want to consume. And I'll say the economic actor will find a loophole and a way to still produce it in a cheap price and accessible price that average people can access, even though there's tax there because of their huge amount of capital and etc. So the problem with sugar tax is, and the problem of every preventive measure is, it relies on individuals to change your lifestyle. And that's what takes a long time because the clock is ticking. We have to achieve SDG 3.4 in 2030, and WHO has estimated that it will develop in no time. Demographic dividend is in 2030. The question is, how long will it take for all individual on the ground to want to change your lifestyle drastically from sugar eating to no sugar eating? And that's why, in the meantime, also by the fact that some of them arbitrarily suffer heart disease because of genetic, I'll say that repressive actions are needed as of now, but we are so happy to incorporate other preventive measure that you recommended as well, because I also see the importance of it. The second question is in regards to drug storage facility. It will not be enough to have one. That's why in the paper I said there will be some drug storage facility in a lot of provinces, especially provinces with high prevalence of these strategic diseases. That will ease out the transportation costs. I agree with you that Indonesia is a really huge country, and it's impossible that there can only be one drug storage facility in Jakarta. It'll be quite hard to deliver it in Papua and etc. And that's why there will be several drug storage facilities in a lot of prevalent provinces. But aside from that, that's government program. Government is going to do that. But aside from that, I'll argue that manufacturer will have their own incentive to build up their own drug storage facility, and that's because it eases up business operation. So I'll argue that it is still going to be accessible for a lot of provinces in Indonesia. The last thing is on drug selling policy. Again, this is quite similar with what government has done, which is harga eceran tertinggi for retail and etc. But the issue is it relies on business actor being responsible. And I think everyone knows business actor is profit oriented. And some big companies can do things like law the government. There's things like funding political campaign so that they can bypass the law and bypass these regulations. So I think the most effective solution is to give consumers the option to buy from a more accessible manufacturer rather than relying on companies being responsible by government policy and etc. Thank you so much, Ms. Karima, for that question.
Okay. Thank you for all the questions for judges, and thank you for Daniel. Give applause for Daniel. Just put it there. Yeah. Okay. Next, for the next contestant, we still have two left. Okay, Rehan. Okay, Rehan, you can prepare for your presentation. So the last will be Farah, ya. Farah, you are the last, right? Are you okay, Farah? Okay. Just checking. Okay, Raihan, this is your presentation, right? Your presentation? Okay. Yeah, you can adjust it. Okay, Rehan, you will have 15 minutes for your presentation and 30 minutes for your question and answer session. You want to start? You want to set your own timer, or no?
I'll use the timer that you said.
Okay, so I will give you a reminder if there still 5 minutes left.
Sure
Okay.
thing, thank you.
Okay, you may start your presentation, Rehan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, greetings to every one of us. To the honorable judges, organizing committee, friends and families that are participating physically or virtually, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Raihan Maulana Fajri. I'm a student of batch 2020, and I'm currently one of the finalists for the selection of most outstanding students of FOE 2023. First and foremost, I'd like to give my utmost gratitude to Ms. Fitriana for all her guidance as my supervisor in the drafting of this paper, as well as Professor Aloysius Uyono for all the inputs and the discussions that we've had in the past weeks. And now, honorable judges and distinguished participants, allow me to start my presentation with a question. How did you get here, and what did you eat today? Some of you might answer, oh yeah, I got here through Gojek. Oh yeah, I ate sushi tei that I ordered from GrabFood. But have you ever thought about the lives of those people who delivered food to you, or the lives of those people who took you from your home to here in this venue? Yes, I'm talking about those figures who ventured all the way from their homes, miles away, just to make ends meet every single day, but are exposed to various vulnerabilities in the road. I'm talking about the online ojek drivers, which will be my subject of presentation today, titled Strategy for the Provision of Social Security Programs to online motorcycle taxi drivers through SOP tightening and socialization. But before that, what exactly is an OJOL or an OJEC online? An OJEC online is an online-based motorcycle transportation that utilizes the on-demand feature of applications. Nowadays, there are many existing online transportation methods in Indonesia, starting from Gojek as the pioneer, then there's Grab, and the new ones like Maxim, InDriver, Antrin, and other applications. But the strategy that I'm going to propose today is not to be specifically on one single application or one single region, but with the hope that this strategy shall be implemented in every applications and every regions, with the focus specifically on the welfareness of these online OJEC drivers, specifically at their social security programs. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what exactly is an OJEC online driver? An OJEC online drivers are gig economy workers within the online transportation sector that are not direct employees of the application, but are partners or independent contractors known as partners to them. And these online motorcycle drivers, they're paid through each gig that they do, and the way that they transport the passengers or the foods or the goods that they're bringing. And because of that, there's no direct employment, and they're considered as nothing more than partners. And because of the same reason, these online drivers, they are not protected by the online application because of the partnership agreement that is set between the two, that says that the online application are not to be accountable, nor are they responsible for any bodily damage or vehicular damage that is sustained by these drivers. However, a new rule was ruled out back in 2019, specifically the regulation on the Ministry of Transport, Article 16, clause number 3, number 12 on the year of 2019, that specifically says that it is within the responsibility of the online OJEC transportation application to ensure that these online drivers are registered to the National Social Security Employment Agency, also known in Indonesia as BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. Now, the dilemma comes the clash between the partnership agreement as well as the rule that has been set out. But other than that, there are also other predicaments. Firstly, is coming from the online OJEC drivers themselves. There's a lack of awareness on the importance of social security programs. As a matter of fact, judging from the statistics coming from the Central Bureau and BPJS Ketenagakerjaan, it says that only 23% of online OJEC drivers are registered to the social security program out of 3 to 4 millions. And at the same time, this is also quite concerning because of the fact that these online OJEC drivers, they are very much vulnerable to every risk on the road, considering that they could be vulnerable to road bike accidents that would lead to disability, to even death. And second of all is the lack of supervision or monitoring coming from the online application, where they specifically where they're supposed to be ensuring that these online OJEC driver applications are registered to the social security programs, but lots of them have yet to do so. What they do instead is nothing more than offering them the programs, the BPJS Ketenagakerjaan or other private insurance that are oftentimes not taken very seriously by these online OJEC drivers. Given these two challenges, I've prepared 3 solutions that are in accordance to the Sustainable Development Goals of SDG 8, which is decent work and economic growth, specifically targeting Goal 8.8, that is to establish a good working environment, as well as protecting labor rights. Now, the solutions include, the first one is the tightening of SOP and requirement and prerequisites. Given by the current status quo, is a fact that that most of the focus of the standardized operational procedure only focus on the attributes and the accessories of the online OJEC drivers. They don't really it's nothing more than just the code of ethics in how to pick up passengers and how to drop them off, but none of the clauses in the SOP specifically talks about the social security of these online OJEC drivers, and that is quite concerning because considering the high risk nature of these online OJEC drivers. With that in mind, the solution that we're going to propose is to make the the registration for the Social Security and Social Security program or the BPJS Ketenagakerjaan a mandatory for the applicants to become a driver of the OJEC online application. This kind of solution has been implemented in other countries, like for example, United States of America, England, and Australia, where there it is mandatory for the online OJEC for the online transportation drivers to have their social security number as well as being registered to any national or private insurance companies. Second is to create socialization programs in regards to promoting the promoting the awareness of social security programs. Now, we're aware of the fact that in the past, some socialization measures have been done by either the online applications or by the Ministry of Transportation. However, those were proven to be ineffective under underlying reasons. First is because the past socializations was not very intensified upon in a way that the last big socialization on social security programs were barely 4 to 5 years ago. And even if it does, even if it was done again, it only managed to reach out to some hundreds or thousands of online OJEC drivers. That was not very effective because the online OJEC drivers consider that joining the socialization to be rather a waste of time, where they would prefer to just pick up drivers and do their job basically. And with that in mind, we've set up some strategies on how to create a more effective socialization method with our innovations, given by the current digital 4.0 era that we have here. That is first is to include and to utilize the use of key opinion leaders or influencers in the promotion and the conducting the roadshows and socializations. For example, we can use Adirai, since he was one of the ambassadors of the Social Security program, namely BPJS, or we can use other influencers like Raditya Dika, who has been creating contents in regards to financial planning. We believe that including these KOL or influencers would cater to the interests of these online OJEC drivers to actually join the socializations in the long run. Other than that, we need a more collaboration and community-based approach in creating such socializations, because in the past there was no such efforts to include the online OJEC drivers in creating the roadshows and socialization. In this case, what I'm trying to propose is to include the communities of OJEC, since over the years the online OJEC drivers have since created a communal identity. For example, there is Garda, or the Association of Online OJEC Drivers in various locations. Then there's also Sri Kandi Gojek, or an association of female online OJEC drivers. By utilizing such communities, we can bring more tractions and more involvement of these online OJEC drivers in the socialization, because they think that they have a moral obligation and a moral incentive to actually join and partake in the event, knowing the fact that they are actually represented and they're not just listening. They're not just listening to officials ranting out about insurance, which in this case, we believe that a community-based approach would be far more effective considering the given nature of their morality. And last but not least is to create incentive reimbursement for these online OJEC drivers to join the socialization in a way that we are aware of the fact that they most of them are rather pragmatic, in a way that they rather choose to work instead of joining socializations. But in this case, by giving them reimbursement in the form of internet data or transport money, we believe that it could gain traction for them to join the socialization and the webinar, and also bringing them family as well. And in a way that we believe that by partnering up with other KOLs, private institutions, or even like the ministers, it would also bring much more funding and as well as a more nuanced collaboration into the socialization. We believe that if this socialization measures were to be implemented, then in the long run we can raise the knowledge and the awareness of the needs to register in a social security program. And third solution, last but not least, is to create an integrated registration form to register for the social security programs. So in the current status quo, there's no such features where the online OJEC drivers can register straight from their application. but they would have to go to a website, and the website will usually direct them to go to the BPJS or the Social Security office directly. And these online object graphers then don't have a very much an incentive to do so, because they think like it's a waste of time. But we believe that by utilizing the already existing features of the application, but putting up a form in front of their eyes, basically in the application, it would result in a more efficient way of registering to the application. By doing this, we believe that that those online object graphers that are yet to be registered to the Social Security programs would be more incentivized, seeing that it doesn't take a hassle to register in the Social Security program. But this specific solution is targeted for those who are not yet registered. If this strategy were to be implemented, that it's mandatory for them to register to the Social Security program. And all these three solutions have been integrated to the smart mechanism, which is specific in a way that we specifically target the online object drivers as one of the dominant gig economy workers, ranging 1.2 millions out of 2.4 millions of gig economy workers in Indonesia. And we're also aware of the fact that motorcycle accidents, they constitute to the biggest casualties when it comes to road accidents, coming from the Central Statistics Bureau and the Central Statistics from the traffic. And for the measures part, we believe that the results coming out from these solutions could be accounted by how many online object drivers have registered as a part of the Social Security programs. That
You
is
have
how we measure
2
them out.
minutes left.
Thank you. And we are targeting by the next few years through this strategy for the online object graphers to be registered at the Social Security program to at least reach more than 50% rather than the current status quo, and in the long run to reach a 100% maximum rate of participation like they have done in Australia, United States, and England. And for the realistic part, in a way that we're aware of the current existing law that exists, and we are not creating such new technologies that are quite bombastic, but we're only utilizing the already existing ones and giving a more nuanced strategy to what we already have, which we believe could be more implemented in the long run, and it's not just a buzzword. And for the acceptable, because we're not trying to defy or construct or anything or break any laws, then we believe that this should be applicable. And for the time bound is the fact that we are projecting for a short term and a long term reach of completion. For the short term, that is within the next few years, we expect an increase of awareness on the importance of Social Security programs, and in the long term, which is to reach the Sustainable Development Goals by the time of 2030, where we expect every online object graphers to have been registered as a registrant of the Social Security program. With that in mind, I'd like to end my presentation with a sincere hope that one day the comfort and the safety that we feel as a passenger are not to be exclusively felt by us, but to be mutually felt by the drivers or the online object drivers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, Raihan. Give applause for Raihan for the presentation. And now you, for judges, you will have 30 minutes for the question and answer session. Maybe one of you want to start first. Ibu Iva or Ibu Heni or Bang Togi or yeah. Okay, Ibu Iva.
Thank you, my input. Good afternoon, Raihan.
Good afternoon.
Okay,
Hello,
the presentation is actually an interesting topic about gig workers. I believe that they are the people that we must protect it because the contract is actually unclear. But I agree that they need to have insurance in form of BPJS or BPJK. But my concern is here, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but you put the burden here to the driver to pay their own insurance, right? BPJS and BPJS.
Yes, exactly, because that is how the mechanism works, Miss.
Yeah. So first is you wants that SOP or requirement for the Gojek driver is they need to have BPJS before they apply for Gojek driver.
Exactly.
So if the insurance become the requirement for apply for Gojek, a lot of people will miss the opportunity to become a driver Gojek, right? Because I know that there are still a lot of people that cannot access the BPJS itself. Even though maybe for you, for me, the price of BPJS is like very cheap, but for people it is like they daily income. 35.000, I see that the cheaper one is 35.000 rupiah, and sometimes for marginalized people it is their daily income, so it's not really cheap. So my point is, if we put this at a requirement for them, less and less people will not have access to change their fate to become the gig worker. So that's my concern. And the second is, uh, the idea to we ask them to have BPJS or BPJS TK only will release the burden of a fee from the company and move it to the driver of the Gojek. So they are already marginalized. If we require them to register in BPJS and BPJS TK, it will burden them more, because the monthly fee for BPJS is certain. Meanwhile, their monthly income is uncertain. So that is my concern. How you answer that? Thank you.
Thank you very much, honorable judge, for the question. In regards to, and thank you for the input as well. In regards to the concerns regarding their monthly wage as well as how the social security program might burden them, we believe that it can be solved in a way that first the social security program for the online object drivers are separated from the normal ones. In the current status quo, the setting price of the program for specifically for online object drivers is set 16,800 rupiah. Considering the fact that the online object drivers, they also need to have their own funds, for example, like having a smartphone, having a jacket, and having some funds to basically support their work as an online project. I believe that it is not too burdenable for them to have that extra 16,800 per month, considering that also from the statistics have shown that their monthly income is approximately from 3.5 millions to 4 millions per month. So we believe that 16,800 is rather not that not that burdenable. And also there's also statistics that it would only at maximum is 1%. So we believe that in a way that it may appear as somehow a bit burdening for them, but but if we were to take it on a more helicopter view, as well as if they were to be participating in the set socialization and roadshows, we believe that we can shed more light into them on the fact that the social security programs, while they appear as somehow a bit burdenable in the beginning, is actually quite fruitious in the long run, especially when it doesn't burden, considering the fee of 16,800. Thank you, Miss. If I hope that answers your question. If you have more follow-ups, please feel free to let me know, Miss. Thank you, Miss.
Hello, Raihan.
Hello, sir.
The issue seems to be simple. I question whether it's too simple, but my question is, do you know the number of registered and unregistered Gojek drivers to the BPJS program? That's one. My second question is, you mentioned that one of the solution is using an app. Even though I think I read somewhere that Gojek already makes it very easy for their drivers to join the BPJS program. I think they mentioned something around less than 19,000 rupiah per month for them to join BPJS. But you mentioned that this is still an issue and you propose for registration via app. Nah, the issue with that is data collection and personal data. If 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 your solution is implemented, can you please explain what would then be the role of each of the parties in a personal data regulation regime currently in Indonesia? Who is the data processor? Who is the data controller? And what are their obligations? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Togi, for the answer for the question. So, in regards to the statistics of how many online OJEC drivers are registered and unregistered, according to the survey from the Central Statistics Bureau in collaboration with the BPJS, or the National Social Security Program, it has been estimated that 23% of the online OJEC drivers are registered, while out of the 4 million. So that would make the number would be somewhere around like uh, 3 million for the online OJEC drivers that are not yet registered as of 2021. And in regards to the data collection and data protection, what we're trying to do is not to what we're trying to do with the form is just to put the form at the center front of the application, in a way that the data processing and everything will still be the responsibility of the BPJS, or the National Social Security Program. What the online OJEC application is trying to do is just to be like the connector of the data that is filled out by these online OJEC drivers to later be sent out through the cloud servers to the BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. So in a way, the obligations and etc. would still be centered upon between the online OJEC driver that is trying to register as a part of the Social Security member, while the data processing will still be relied upon on the BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. And in this case, the Gojek, or the online OJEC application, would just be the connector between the two, considering that is where it is the partnership between the online OJEC drivers and the online OJEC application. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Oh ya, oke, Ibu Heni.
Okay, so if that's your question, you need to take privacy and data protection class, ya. Okay. Well, what? So who collect the data anyway?
Oh, the one who collects the data. In the end, it will be the
The
BPJS
Gojek,
Ketenagakerjaan.
right?
Yes.
The Gojek,
Sorry, ma'am. It's the BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. So the
no, in order you're going to force, yeah, quote unquote,
Oh, yeah.
forcing, right? So the driver to have the BPJS, right? So you propose to have this kind of I don't know, application or anything, yeah, to make sure that all Gojek driver already joined the BPJS.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
So in that case, yeah, the online provider can also be considered as the data controller.
Okay. ma'am.
Okay. So, well, interestingly, why don't you come up with this initiative, yeah, forcing the online service provider to provide the BPJS for the drivers?
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for the question. The reason why I do not provide such mechanism is because of the ongoing partnership between the ongoing partnership, and the fact that these online OJEC drivers are not direct employees to the online application. So in any way, the online OJEC driver, the only way that the online platform or the online OJEC application can provide the BPJS for these OJEC drivers were if they were to become a direct employee under their wing. But in this case, since it is a partnership, it is a partnership between the online OJEC application and the online drivers, they cannot in any way register for them. So the online OJEC, so the drivers would have to register by themselves. But these online platform can assist them with the set method of putting up the form at the application, making it integratable. That's
Okay.
the answer, ma'am.
Do you know why they are unlikely want to register for the BPJS?
The
The driver.
drivers. Oh, yes, ma'am. According to the statistics and the journals that I read, is because they have a lack of awareness on the importance of social security programs. In a way that they see these social security programs as nothing more than expense of money that they are not going to feel eventually unless they were to have an accident and etc. So they would rather.
That's not the only way. You know what? Because if you are applying for BPJS, you have to pay for all members in your family card.
But oh,
Yeah,
yes.
that's the one of the reason. Because imagine they're staying with two kids, or some of them included their parents or their parents-in-law in one family card, so they have to pay all members. So that's the problem. One of the problem why people with low income unlikely to join BPJS, because once it registered, you have to pay for all members. So you know the benefit. I believe they know the benefit of BPJS, but the problem is about the payments, the cost of the payment.
Okay, thank you so much for the input, Miss. If I can give a little bit response to that, in the case that they are quite burdened with the BPJS Kesehatan, then I believe that they can register only for the BPJS Ketenagakerjaan, which is only for themselves in the application, since they are the only ones working as a driver. So yes, in the case that they mindful of the BPJS Kesehatan, then they can resort to the BPJS Ketenagakerjaan. Thank you.
Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss.
Okay, next questions from Raffi.
Okay, thank you, Baik Put. Hello, Raihan. I just have two simple questions. First of all, I'm just curious, how long did it take to write your paper, and what are the things that you've done to write the substance of your paper, such as research and etc.?
Okay, thank you, Honorable Judge, for the question. So it took me about 5 days to come up with the ideation of this whole topic surrounding OJEC, online OJEC, and the predicament surrounding their social security program. But it took me approximately 3 days to draft the whole paper. And the researches that I have done is firstly from the journalistic side, is that I looked upon the conditions of the online OJEC graphers surrounding their social security programs, ranging from the areas of Jabodetabek, Palangkaraya, and Surakarta. And for the personal research, the research that I own conducted is I simply just talk to the online OJEC drivers that take me from one place to another. I'm just asking them about like whether or not they're registered to the BPJS under their consent, of course, and yeah, that's pretty much the sorts of my research. And there were lots of statistics that I've read, mainly from the BPJS, or the Central Statistics Bureau.
Okay, thank you, Raihan. My second question is there any particular reason on why you chose OJEC online drivers specifically? How about other gig workers? Is it the professors, I don't know, that gave you the idea, or is there something else?
Okay, thank you for the question. So the personal reason as to why I brought this topic of research to begin with is because I'm a regular customer of online OJEC transportation. So, and there was also a class that I attended in which the lecturer talked about how these online OJEC drivers, most of them are not protected through any social security, be it national or private. And in regards to why I specifically focus on online OJEC transportation as opposed to other gig economy workers, is because of the fact that in Indonesia, the gig economy workers, the majority of them are working within the online transportation sector, with the amount of 1.2 million out of 2.4, and the remaining of them are the remaining gig economy workers are those who works in a lower risk jobs, like for example being a programmer, like Fiverr, Upwork, etc. So my center of focus to put online OJEC transportation in this case is because of the fact that they have a higher risk of vulnerabilities, especially at road bike accidents, knowing the fact that motorbikes are one of the most vulnerable to road accidents in the street. So that's why I specifically choose this topic and this gig economy worker.
Okay, thank you very much, Raihan. That's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ibu Iva? We still have already. Okay. All judges already asked questions for Raihan. We still have 13 minutes left. If there is any follow-up questions or comments or critics or advice for Raihan, probably. No? Input? No? Okay. Okay. If there is no other questions or comments, we may give applause to Raihan for the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Judge, for the opportunity, especially for the inputs. I wish to put them on my revisions should I advance to the next level of the competition. Thank you very much.
Okay, no need to draw anymore because we have the last contestant here. Yeah, the last contender. Farah. Is it okay for you to stand up or you want to have a seat? It's okay? Okay. Farah, you will have, like the other, you will have 15 minutes for your presentation. You want somebody to record it? Okay. Okay, documentation is important, right? Okay, Farah, you will have 15 minutes for your presentation and then you will have 30 minutes for your question and answer session. Are you ready? Turn it off first.
Check. Okay.
Okay, you may start your presentation now.
Good afternoon, Honorable Judge. First, I want to express my gratitude for giving me the chance to get selected as one of the finalists for Pemilihan Mapres FHUI 2023. Allow me to briefly introduce myself. My name is Farah Weda Kamila. I'm currently enrolled in my second years as a law student in the Faculty of Law, University of Indonesia. Without further ado, I will begin my presentation, which is still as development of Bastari, batik tulis through virtual reality technology and marketing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. Without further ado, I'll begin my presentation, which is titled as Development of Bastari, Batik Tulis Virtual Reality, and Marketing Mawar Cantik. Yep. Okay. Malam Pewarna Cantik and Kain package as an effort to preserve and modernize the batik tulis culture in 5.0 era. As we know that extent of batik printing technique turned out to be negative impact of the essence and philosophy of batik. Not only that, in my research, in one of the batik producing center, RT 1 Kampung Batik Semarang, there is a huge decrease in the local participation and interest to become a fellow batik producer. This make batik tulis becoming more prone to extinction, especially in the 5.0. The current trend for the 5.0 era is integration with the cyber world, right? Here I present to you currently the best solution to counter the highlighting issues. That is say by bringing virtual reality into the batik tulis industry. Okay, virtual reality has a capability to facilitate physical reality to be presented in a digital environment. Whereas in this scenario, it will enable a realistic batik tulis crafting experience and could be enjoyed in any kind of digital device that accessible to anyone. The idea of this incorporation is also linear with a goal in SDGs, decent work and economic growth. To establish some foundation, we need to know the actual situation about our culture, which is referred to as batik tulis. In fact, there are degrees in the philosophy on essence of batik proven by Angela Oscaria journals with the title The Simulation of Nationalism Reputation with Fashion, a case study of batik printing in the lifestyle of postmodern society. Batik printing is not recognized as batik because the manufacturing process does not go through malam coating, making it being only refers to as batik pattern fabric. Meanwhile, when we're talking about batik tulis, it's done by the expression, either by painting it, crossing it with a brush, with other tools that make it colored. And to continue the future, batik tulis artisan lose some on their income. This is due to the fact that batik tulis cannot compete with batik printing in aspects such as pricing, market interest, and efficiency. Lastly, there's significant increase around the local community concerning that culture needs to catch up with the current trends. Okay, we already talked about the problems, the issue regarding all culture that is slowly eroded by the modern era, but we haven't discussed the opportunity yet. If there is bad side, there must be a good side. The 5.0 era, as the target of this study, requires matching the medium of information dissemination. The second, there is a knowledge intensity society where the society has pride this cyber involvement in processing data and information to be implemented in the real world. The third, the virtual reality is medium for spreading culture following society 5.0. And the lastly, the virtual reality programs can provide a realistic experience as a lower cost. So the implement the Bastari program, batik tulis artisan will be assisted by managers. The manager who process to contact the utilized third parties, such as a company that specializes in making video games, programming, or computer generate imaginary. Okay, when implementing the program, the artisan carry out the entire batik making progress, and the device will record every movement of batik tulis artisans, and all movement and other information captured will be processed into the programs, which user can use freely anywhere and everywhere. Thus, in the mechanism of using virtual reality, it is expected for program user to have equipment in batik. Therefore, I propose the marketing package of Mawar Cantik consists malam, warna, cantik, and kain to support additional income for batik tulis artisan itself. Mawar Cantik package will later be marketed around through e-commerce, and the price will range for 40,000 to 70,000 outside the delivery fee. It is adjusted regarding the level of understanding of the skills of the program user, ranging for basic, intermediate to high. With virtual reality in batik tulis under name the Bastari program user can experience making batik realistically directly at their residence. It provides an opportunity to learn batik tulis flexible, time saving and cost efficient. User can also apply the knowledge they've gained to craft their original product with the Mawar Cantik that include alongside Bastari. So this will be sustainable process, and hopefully that create a system that will benefiting with all the stakeholders that include in Bastari and Mawar Cantik program. That's all the presentation.
Have 8 minutes left. Is there any other additional
No.
presentation? No?
Okay.
Okay. If there's no more presentation from Farah, give applause first for Farah for the presentation. Now we will continue to the question and answer session. Like usual, we will have 30 minutes for the judges to ask to Farah. Is there any of judges want to start first? Oh, okay. Ibu Ifa want to start first.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Iput. Good afternoon, Farah.
Afternoon, Bu.
So, this is actually interesting ideas, but is it doable or not? That's another question. Okay, so my concern is most likely in technicality issue. First, do you know how much people have the Oculus glass? So things to do VR. Is there a lot of people here? Maybe I just want people in this room. How much of you do have VR glass? Oh my god, we are really in different generation, right? Mbak Iput? Is it cheap or expensive?
It's around like when I see the e-commerce in Tokopedia one, it's like the 40,000 rupiahs, 40,000 around that range.
400.000.
That's the cheap one.
Okay.
Iya,
Okay, I need to
40.000.
buy one. Okay. Because maybe it's popular in your generation but not in my generation. Okay. So that's the technicality issue. I just want to ask, is Oculus VR expensive or not? Because last time I know it is kind of expensive, but maybe the technology has evolved and it's replicated. So I think there are no problem in the accessible of Oculus Glass. But my question is, the idea of VR is basically you cover your eyes using the glasses and you are doing batik. Have you been doing batik before, Farah?
Yeah, I'm doing batik because like in senior high school, that's my extracurricular like that.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
okay. But have you been doing batik with closed eyes?
No.
Yeah, you know, because this batik is like using hot candle, hot wax gitu. So if you close your eyes and you doing batik with hot candles, it's basically will create a mess and it may damage you. So my question is like really technical the issue. This is interesting, but is it doable? That's another question. Okay. And the so my issue is basically why you use virtual reality? Is it really necessary to do virtual reality or not? Because I think the package of batik itself is already sufficient. You don't need the VR one. So why you choose to integrate virtual reality here? Because even Mark Zuckerberg is already give up to the metaverse. So why you need to use it? And the second question, I'm sorry, Mbak Heni, if my answer is my question about intellectual property, right? It is more like Mbak Heni domain area actually. But I'm kind of curious. If you use this method, how about the issue in intellectual property right? Let's say I'm one of the buyer of the package. I try to make it and I can do it better. I can do it good. So I duplicate the motif and I produce it by myself. So how about the intellectual property right issue? What if someone doing it and selling the batik with the cheaper price with their own way?
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Farah.
Okay. Thank you so much for the question. I will try to answer it. For the first question, do much people that wear glasses? So in my perspective, I got research with the community. Uh, Lawang Sewu. Lawang Sewu is one of community like student from Semarang that studied in University of Indonesia. They have a lot of VR class. Yeah, there's a lot of VR class. So why I choose the virtual reality? Because I think the program cannot be implemented if we are not into the society 5.0. So society 5.0 is like we're currently bringing the reality in our society turn out like cyber, right? So because I see the progress from batik tulis in Semarang in 1997, when I see the journal, one of the journal, there is a vacuum from batik Semarang that makes progress from batik Semarang itself with with the technology, with the new the practice, with the new technique, and it makes me have an idea first because like the COVID one, and there's like can implement in future. I mean, it can be implemented in.
Okay, can I give the response?
Yeah.
Why don't you use YouTube video? Is it cheaper? Not requires as expensive technology as VR, and to create the picture of batik itself, like doing batik,
Oh.
it also requires technology from
Okay,
the crafter, from the
Okay.
artist, right?
Okay.
So I think like YouTube is enough. Why you should insist to apply a VR?
So
thank
the program will be like with VR glass, but like with the sensor printing. Like there's technology that can apply in our hands. You know, like so we can do the batik tulis from the craftsman. So we know that the sensor that bringing in every movement that process in this program can be we feel it. I know that the program is so challenges because like the technology is so have to get funding, get sponsored with with the government and with the companies. But I thought that this program will be one of the idea in our future that can implement in the reality. That's my answer about the question number one. And the question it's the question number two is like why you use virtual reality. It's also I answer it. Okay. And the third is method property right. About like the method everyone can apply it and sell it. The price will be like it's not a commerce and it's not in good in market, and feels like
Sorry,
in
if I may, what I mean is, my concern is, first you say about how to protect the culture of Indonesia, but what if in this way, a lot of people can do batik on their own and they try to duplicate it. We don't talk about Indonesian. How about like people overseas from maybe China? They have capacity for duplicate
okay.
the art. So how about the intellectual proportion?
Okay.
Sorry, intellectual property right issue there. Thank you.
For the program, in my research, it described with the program. It's like the user ranging for basic, intermediate, and the high one. The basic is like we're into knowledge of the batik Semarang and the techniques and the basic techniques. And the intermediate is we know the history. We know that the technique. We know that it's more level up than the basic one. And that the high one is like the user can be have certificate from the craftsman, batik tulis craftsman, because like they yeah because of because the program also in this market. So the user one is I target with the community in like as I said in Lawang Sewu, or in the community of student of like Perhimak UI. It's like from the Kebumen one, like in Semarang one. So the user it's target from it. It's not the mass market, like in is from the niche market. This program will do at there. Yeah, it's now from the first trial and error, maybe in the niche market one. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ivan.
My turn now. Hello. Farah.
Yeah.
Well, can you explain me more on what is your program actually? Well, I heard about the VR and then the package of these apa, mawar cantik. But
Yes.
how is it really works? I mean, are you making batik, or you are learning about the batik, or what? And how do you? Well, I cannot. Well, I myself cannot visual it clearly on what your program is.
It's like first there is an education with the history of batik in this program, like the history of batik
So
Semarang.
I mean, you are going to make a program. Yeah, I mean, computer software, something like that, or you are developing a website, or you are developing an application,
Uh,
or what are you actually developing?
uh, okay. Thank you for the question. The developing is like from like batik tulis is more modern, as you see that the will be modern that batik printing itself. So that's the
Question is how? What do you mean? Are you using the was it yeah, you're mentioning about the VR. What does it have to do with the batik?
so the batik tulis craftsman will be like in green suit, like in the green suit.
In
Green suit like in the yeah the green suit in the like green area. I mean like in the yeah in the one of the um studio.
ever played the VR, but
Yeah.
I still cannot. So, if I want to use this, so I use the was it the VR glasses, and then I'm pretending that I am making the batik, or
Yeah, the use of the VR glasses and making the batik, but like not
so
the only.
there will be a program, was it the yeah, computer program, right?
Yeah, the comedy program, and it will be like not only the glasses, but like there is sensoring
Uh-huh.
the tools in your hand, and like you know that how the all movement from the batik tulis craftsman, all the movement like how the motif one like that in recording like in the VR.
Bingung sih. Yeah, do you have any video or something like that?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, there's no video.
Kalau yang
From
belanja kan kayak pura-pura ngambil gitu
Yeah,
ya.
yeah,
Ada.
yeah,
Nah, ini
yeah.
gimana gitu?
I think
You are
it,
using
it's
canting,
mm,
ya. Well, if you are doing the VR, you don't use any. Yeah, there's a tool, but it's not considered as the tools of making batik.
mm,
And you are, of course, you're also providing that we can buy the package, right? Consists of the malam, the coloring and chanting, and also the fabrics.
yeah, I mean like maybe it will be additional in my research for the mechanism of how the virtual reality can be implemented uh, with the materials from batik tulis itself. um, from my perspective that uh, as long as when I go to research, the virtual reality is going to be like the touring of the museum of batik.
Oh.
But like in my research, it's like but virtuality is going be like you know the mechanism, you know the method uh, how to batik tulis going to be like uh, from the real one.
VR kan kita yang main ya. Bukan kita nonton ya. Yeah, we are playing in the games. Not just watching. There's no use of just watching the film or the movie. You have to enjoy and be part of the program or be part of the games. That's what it's called as VR, as far as I know.
Or if we just like implement the classes, so we. I'm sorry.
Okay, I can see. Okay, there is a chanting, there is a malam, and then I'm pretending that I'm doing I'm making the batik.
Yeah, like that.
But everything is what's it? Just pretend. Yeah, pretending. There's no. We are not using the tools and
Okay, so it will be the additional my research about the how to s- um the making of the video and the programming and something like that. Thank you for.
okay. And one more thing, one more important thing concerning batik. What is batik actually?
Batik is from like tik mematik and
Uh-huh.
from I don't like it's like the process of the mematik things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the point. But it's not just what's it? Creating a motif of batik. Yeah, what is called a batik is you're doing the motif on the fabric itself. You're not just pretending. Yeah, if yeah, you call that kind of program is batik, you diminish the meaning of the batik itself. Okay, maybe yeah. Please do consider about that. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for that's all from me.
Thank you. Another questions?
Hi Farah.
Hi.
So can you please elaborate? I think there is a disconnect between the problem and the solution that you are proposing. The way I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the problem is you highlighted there is a decrease of interest of people becoming batik producers, and the solution is incorporating technology, VR, and Mawar to solve the problem. So the end goal is to, if my summary is correct, then the solution is to answer the end goal, which is to increase batik producers.
Batik printing producer. Yeah.
But batik printing or
printing
batik tulis
Batik
produce?
tulis, batik
Okay.
tulis. Sorry.
Now, see, yeah. So I don't. I think there is a disconnect between the problem and the solution. A simple Google search will tell us that the number one issue of the decrease in people not want, or the decrease of people wanting to become batik producers is economic problems, because there is simply they're not being paid adequately to become batik producers. So I think there is again, I think there is a disconnect. If the solution is to introduce virtual reality, maybe if the problem is lack of awareness of batik process, or to introduce the difference between batik tulis and batik printing, and to show appreciation and history, that might be a solution to the answer, but to the problem. But the problem here that you laid out is the decrease of people not wanting to become batik producer, and not lack of awareness or the preference of people buying batik yang Bu Henny just mentioned, that it's important for us to understand the process. If we understand the process, then we will not buy batik print, because basically batik is a painting and you buy it because it's unique, the way it's handmade. So I think there is a disconnect between problem and solution. So do you agree with that statement? That's one. And two, I think you have not explored, if the problem remains, or if you decide to stay with your problem, which is, oh, I want to increase the number of people becoming batik producers, I think you need to explore why these people do not want to be batik producers before you introduce virtual reality. Because if the answer is, oh, because of economic reasons, because they're not being paid enough, then maybe the solution is different. Maybe the solution is, oh, let's increase demand for batik, right? Let's push for every In the United States, for example, every state has a state flag, has a state motto, state fruit. Maybe the solution is to encourage every province in Indonesia or every region to have their own batik. And to oblige, for example, people in that area to wear batik on a specific day. So that's one of the solutions. Why? Because it increases demand. If you increase demand, supply needs to go up. People will become producers, prices will go up. Simple economic math. So I think there is a big problem with your presentation, because for me, I think there is a huge disconnect between problem and solution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bang Togi, for the criticize my research, and I have to edit in my research too about the criticize, and I will put in the too. I'm agree with the 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 opinion from Bang Togi in the solution and the problem and the solution. It's not really elaborate because like when I heard the opinion from Bang Togi, uh it makes me it makes there is do I have to do more research about the economic and the demand and increase, and yeah, about the mechanism of the problems and the solution itself. um Okay, from the huge decrease in the local participation and interest of batik or become a philo batik producer. Yes, it is from like there's no supply income or like there is like there's no what it's what there is no fund from the government from the Semarang with to RT 1 Kampung Batik Semarang. So there is a huge decrease in local participation and interest to become a fellow batik producers. And in my program, why I choose the problem like that, because like in my program is like for the long term idea. It's not for the for the uh for the not for the um uh short term, so that will be the added opinion from Bang Togi in my research. Thank you for Bang Togi for criticize my research. Okay, that's it.
Last questions maybe from Raffi.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Ibu. Hello, Farah. I think I agree with the other judges. If you have addressed the problem of the ignorance of younger generation on the batik tulis making, maybe this is a great solution. But if you address the problem of there are much lesser batik producer, I think you have to uh, do a deeper and depth research and analysis on what's the root problem that caused uh, that that problem. Well, maybe I just have two questions. My first question is, could you please explain which point of SDGs are you referring to when you created this idea proposal? And please do elaborate. Maybe that's my first question. You can answer it.
Okay, the XDG is like in 8 point is decent work and economic growth. For the details is like in 8.2 the ini the goal is like achieve a higher level of productivities of economic truth, diversification, technology upgrading and innovation, including true focus on high values added and labor intensive sector. That's from the SDGs that I both. And from the elaborate is like achieve high levels of productivity of economies. It's like the achiever higher level of productive of economy through the like with um with the technology that I've both is like the virtual reality one. So how to make the achiever hikers of productive of economy is like with the same of the technologies uh going to our productivity. I mean like um the the batik tulis craftsmen in my research have to do the product of economies that is like the same ways of the technologies in this era, you know. And through this desertification is like um and then the technology upgrading and innovation, it's from the virtual itself, that is like I told the last things, including through focus on high values added and labor intensive sectors. So high value added is like from the Mawar Cantik. I hope that when I bought the Mawar Cantik package, it's like it can be like the additional income from the batik tulis craftsman itself. So maybe that's it. The my elaborate for the SDGs.
Okay, thank you. So the main focus is on the economic part there.
Yeah.
Okay, so my follow-up question is, if your main focus is the economic part, regarding this Bastari, which is a virtual reality experience, yeah, what is your what is the age group that you are aiming for that will be using this experience?
For the group that can be experienced is like um people who can people who like us, like the student in like the range for the age is like for um seven maybe 10 years old. 10 years old can apply this program and until the adult one, because like why because I think when we talking about the technology is so faster than I thought, so I can be give my opinion like the user can be using this program will be like range for 10. It can be like lower than that, or like it can be higher than that. I mean like uh 9 or like 11 like that.
Okay, if your main purpose is on the economical part, how can possibly a 10-year-old buy the Mawar Cantik that you proposed? Like, why don't you just focus on the age group that can actually affect the or participate on buying the Mawar Cantik?
So
So,
buying Mawar Cantik is like not the, it's like the another option. It's not the main option. If we just like go with Bastari program, it's not the main option that you have to go with Mawar Cantik. When I got in 10 years old, I mean there's in Jawa Tengah, in Central Java, there is like extracurricular that have that student have to be like learning batik. So maybe the program can will be education will be additional education in the school or in the in the region for the educational education matters like that.
Okay, so the other focus is also on the educational part there.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's answer all my questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for the question.
Okay, I guess all the judges already asked the questions. For Farah, give applause for Farah, the last contestant for today. Okay, thank you, Farah.
Okay.
So, you
thank you
can-
thank you for judges and for the for the criticize for my research. I will be preparing more deeply research. Thank you for that. That's all my presentation today's. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, after this there will be an announcement from Pak Gunarsa for the next. Is there any? I guess there is for all the participants. Thank you, judges, for today for judging all the contestants today.
Oke, baik. Selamat sore. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Untuk teman-teman finalis ya. Tapi sebelumnya saya berterima kasih untuk para juri hari ini. Kayaknya juri bahasa Inggris lebih galak dibanding bahasa Indonesia. Lebih kritis. Tapi nggak apa-apa, itu jadi tantangan buat para finalis kan tentunya. Insya Allah hari Selasa, Bapak Ibu sekalian, kita akan pengumuman Selasa. Pengumuman pemenang finalis Mapres 2023 untuk para finalis diharapkan bisa hadir. Bukan diharapkan, sebenarnya wajib ya. Wajib hadir. Kalau bisa juga mengundang orang tua kalian jika dimungkinkan untuk hadir, gitu ya. Karena kan memberikan apresiasi juga buat teman-teman semua. Ya, mungkin itu saja. Jadi banyak-banyak doa aja di beberapa hari ini, mudah-mudahan kalian yang menang lah gitu ya. The best gitu ya. Oke, mungkin itu saja, Mbak. Terima kasih. Dress code-nya pakai jakun. Formal aja nggak apa-apa, yang penting pakai jas kuning. Seperti itu. Oke. Di sini. Mau di rumah kamu? Kejauhan. Kenapa Mbak ini? Nanti kita pleno hari Senin. Hari Senin. Udah, betul. Oke. Nanti Mbak diumumin. Sabar Mbak. Oke, mungkin itu saja. Terima kasih. Selamat sore. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Finalists, maybe you can like get it from here.